Hi, welcome to our new lecture. We're going to complete talking about political parties. I know you are already started to prepare for your finals, so I hope you do have time to attend these lectures and prepare more and more for your lectures. So let's start. Political parties, as we said before, a very important component of the political regimes, and they started to be cross-borders actors. They do work in very ambiguous level, not only national but also international levels. They do have certain impact in several levels. So let's talk more in this lecture about the system or the structure of each um, uh, combination of the parties inside the country, then to move forward to talk about how we're gonna see these integration, this participation in more than one level. Okay, in general, we have a certain structure for the political regimes based on the shape of the establishment of the political parties. In general, we have four patterns. Number one, a dominant party system. Number two, two-party system. Number three, multi-party system. Number four, popular system. These are the four shapes, the four formulas, the four forms of any political structure or political regime, including or built upon political parties. In the coming slides, we're going to talk more and more about these systems, how they established. We might mention some examples to understand more these issues. Okay, let's start with um, the first two patterns of the political regimes. Let's start with the dominant party and the two-party system. We're going to discuss the features of the systems. We're going to give certain cases, and I'm gonna leave you by the end of this lecture with your quiz to tell me exactly where do you think it is better to interfere, or maybe to give me examples from your perspective about certain political parties or certain political examples. What do we mean by dominant party? What is a dominant party? Is it um, does it mean only one party exists, or does it mean there is more than one party, but it is one party who's controlling? Actually, it could be both. But the idea behind the dominant party is that um, each party inside this community is incapable to reach a particular strong role in shaping the decision-making process, or incapable to participate strongly in the political life, which led by the end of the day for the domination of one party. And in other communities, it is totally forbidden to establish parties or political parties as we used to see previously in certain countries. So the meaning of a dominant party system, it could be both. It could be a system where there is only one political party existed, or it could be a one strong dominant political party exists where we do have other political parties, but they are so weak, they are small, incapable to represent or incapable to participate in the political life. That's why it's still the domination of one party. So Let's discuss more the features of the system behind one dominant party. In this track, we do have one large party within more than absolute majority of votes and seats. Uh, this is exactly what we were talking about. One party that represents the majority of people inside the country. No other party approaching a certain weight for the votes. There is no alternatives. It is one party government. Um, the government, head of the government, the structure, the entire structure is based on this party. Um, Usually, the shape of these communities, not democratic communities, definitely. Let's mention certain examples. We can talk about, for example, India till 1975, Japan between 1955 till 1993, Mexico till 2000, South Africa since 1994. What are the aspects of life in these communities? Within these communities, people are not free to express their willing in a very good way because the government is very strong. The government is controlling everyone and controlling every aspect. There is actually no opposition in these situations. It is all about the authority, the privilege of one particular party who is controlling everything inside this community. Okay, let's move to talk about the two-party system. What does this mean? Again, does it mean that we have only two parties, or can we have more than two parties, but we have two major parties? I think we can have both scenarios. It is either we do have only two parties, but I think the second scenario is more reasonable, that we might have uh, other parties, other political parties, but again, they are weaker, smaller, they don't represent a lot of people, they don't have enough tools actually, they might incapable to participate strongly in the government to have this let's say ability to join the weight of the structure of the political regime. So the two-party uh, it concentrates or consists of two large parties sharing together around 80% of votes and seats. Usually we do have a balance here. It is like 35 to 45 percentage for each one. It is always a competition between the two parties to shape the government and to attract the attention of the voters. Um, One of the two reaching 50% plus one to be capable, for example, to establish the government. Um, uh, the competition between these two parties is very healthy and important, actually. The alternation between the parties is very important. It is a very important um, competition to give a balance between each other. But again, even in this case, it is one party government because the one who's gonna win the election, definitely the other will be in the opposition, and in this case, it's still a one-party government. Let's talk about certain examples, for example, for such a system. Australia, for example, British, Costa Rica, Malta, New Zealand till 1998, Spain, South Africa until 1989, United States of America. Many actually of countries are following this system. Again, the idea of the competition between these two parties and the balance this competition creates is very important and healthy for the sake of citizens and citizenship and building a democratic community in general, in contrast to the first, which is the dominant party. Okay, let's discuss now the remaining two shapes of political regimes based on the structure of political parties. If we talked about the dominant one party, the two-party system, here we're going to discuss more about the multi-party and the popular. Let's talk about the meaning of multi-party and the advantage and disadvantage about this system. Actually, this is a very dangerous system, and in spite of in the shape or in the service, to have many parties is something very healthy for democracy, isn't it? It is very nice to have a lot of political parties do compete, represent people, competing to win the election and to give services and giving certain political programs, pretending that they are the best. But at the same time, if they are not wise enough, if they don't understand how to compete in a very reasonable, how to reflect the interest of the community, they will destroy the community. Let's see here how we can explain the existence of these parties. So, in a multi-party system, we can have several or many parties, three or more, no one approaching the 50% of votes or seats. We have several parties of different sizes. They all competing in a parallel way. Parties run for elections individually and form coalitions after that to form the government. Actually, they might enter the elections in a coalition, but definitely they will form a coalition after the election because none of them will be capable to form a government alone. Alternation through coalition changes. Coalition government is the only solution to form a government as a result in such communities because no one will have the enough weight to shape a community, sorry, to shape a government as a result of this. What kind of examples? We do have Belgium, Canada, Colombia, Denmark, Finland, German until 1989. We have Italy before 1994, for example, Switzerland, Russia. Many countries actually, especially after the Second World War, ended with several modern parties. What I want to talk and highlight, particularly in this part, in talking about multi-party system, it is more in the Europe world than the Arab world because the landscape of culture, understanding, maybe tolerance, maybe the cultural upbringing is a little bit different. The variety of perspectives, they're also different. That allows a lot of parties to appraise, to exist, to coexist together. Um, Maybe also the role of um, tribal system is not existed, and that's what exactly played a huge role in the Arab community to shape, for example, dominant party system or maximum two-party systems. But for example, Russia and after the Soviet Union collapsed, definitely we had several small countries that or which were not established on certain tribal system or tribal background. So the opportunity to have several parties were very strong actually there. Um, Again, the most important advantage of the multi-party system is that it is a very dynamic system. It is a very um, alternative. It's a very transparent system. No one really can control the community because no one really have the decision making authority. They must participate the authority, otherwise no one can shape a government in that case. It is not because they will to participate, but in a way or another they are forced to participate. They have to, they must participate, these authorities, otherwise they will never be capable to shape a government. And they will end up with another early election to reshape a new coalition or to rearrange their alliances or maybe shape the ideology of shaping the coalition or etc. But the bad thing, if they will not build a good coalition, definitely the country will go in a very bad direction. It is exactly how we can see Lebanon nowadays. The last pattern, the last system, it is popular. Popular is a system where we do have two large coalitions composed of several parties sharing together around 80% of votes and seats. Coalitions are balanced, 20 to 50% for each coalition. Um, Coalitions are stable over time and run elections as alliances. Alternation between coalitions has existed. Definitely, the government is a coalition government. Uh, Someone will ask me what is the core difference between the coalition, the popular system and the multi-party system. And this is a very important question. The multi-party system, we're gonna have several weights of powers, several centers of powers. Uh, in the popular system, it is as if we do mix the two-party system with the multi-party system. We do have two centers of powers, two core centers of powers, but each center is not one party. It is a coalition of smaller parties. And usually these coalitions are stable, but we do witness two types of competition. We're gonna have the competition inside the coalition itself and between the two coalition, between the two units, coalition number one and coalition number two. So let's assume we do have, for example, let's say here the first coalition and the second coalition, for example. In the first, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inside the second coalition, we have also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. These two coalitions are competing between each other, and inside each of them we do have another pattern of competition. They do compete to lead the coalition, to compete with the second coalition in between. Let's have examples for this, and then we're going to talk about the advantage and disadvantage of these coalition in general. A very good example would be France, Germany since 1990, Italy, for example, since 1994, Portugal also is a very good example for this. This is very complicated political system. It requires a huge awareness, a huge competition, but it ends up with a good balanced community or a better democracy than what a multi-party system could present, or what a two-party system could represent. Actually, the worst one would be the dominant party, because there is no competition aslan, and there is a huge dominant role over all the not only political life aspects, but also all the aspects of the life inside these communities. Okay, let's review together what we have in the remaining part of this lecture. Is only a quick revision to what we did in the previous lecture, and link it with the remaining part of this lecture. Remember that during the elections, political parties are required to compete in the elections to gain influence, aggregating and representing social interests. They do provide a structure for the political participation itself. They provide certain alternatives. They do train political leaders, provide the community with the image, with the leaders they would believe and vote for. Let's see the kind of relation that we might see in the communities. Political parties, meaningful choice in government. They avenues for political participation. They exert pressure on the political system, put local concerns in their context. Um, uh, Again, during the election, they need, for example, to communicate, compete, support their candidates, attack the other candidates, engage in certain debates, shape campaigns, foster citizens to participate, get out the vote. Um, they are very active during the election campaigns. They abide by results, promote electoral integrity. It is very important to see their role as a very democratic practice for all the set of rights of political participation rights. The only thing that I wanna to mention here is that sometimes the dominant party over the government is controlling everything, and forbid certain parties from this right or this function during the election. Um, After the election, we might see political parties as part of the parliament or other local bodies. Um, um, During this, they need to do the following. They need to implement the legislative agenda. They need to address citizens' concerns. They need to build committee, coalitions. They need to be very reflective to the citizens' needs and the community needs. Otherwise, definitely people will not vote for them in the coming election. Definitely, they are um, not part of the structure in a good way. But unfortunately, not all political parties do that. Once they reach the governance, they will forget all their promises, and I think they will forgot even people who would vote for them. And government, they need to run affairs of country, develop, implement policies, oversee the government agencies, account for funds, deliver certain promises definitely they give during their campaigns, make sure that they give strategic plan for the government, protect human rights, support economic development, etc., etc. What if a political party lose the elections? Do they be excluded from the political life? The answer is definitely no. They will be shifted to a new political role, which is the opposition. This is only for the all political regimes except for the dominant party, because usually the opposition and such regimes or systems is very weak and incapable to do anything, because they totally understand their capacities and tools are weak in confronting the government tools and power and authority, especially in that the dominant party is controlling not only the executive but also the legislative and um, parliament parliament bodies of the government. But if we do have very democratic community, so the political parties who will lose the election will go directly for the opposition. What they will do during their participation in the opposition, they will contribute to accountability, they will monitor the government actions, definitely, they will propose policy alternatives, seek compromise and solutions. They need to support the human rights the community needs, whether from inside the government or outside the government, whether they are participating in certain coalitions or they are only part of the community back, because uh, these political parties is nothing more than um, a gathering, a grouping from citizens, and that's it. If they are not inside the government, so they are inside the community again, and that's it. Do we need really parties? Actually, as we mentioned before, the structure of having several parties is very important because it reflects a new pattern of communities. Political parties are not perfect, but they are very important to create the balance between the citizen communities and governments. Uh, if we're gonna see the diversity between political parties, we need to see the following elements. Political parties vary upon the size, the funding, um, the capacities, the ethnic makeup, the ideology, governing versus opposition, the context of the community they do belong to, the track they are putting themselves in, whether nationally, regionally, or international context. Uh, so the diversity among parties is very huge, and you cannot limit it with the current elements. They are only a set of elements. Sometimes we have more than two together. We might have three or four, and even more. But what I want you to understand is that it is not about size. It is not about whether they are inside the government or not. It is all about the ability to affect the decision making process itself. Thank you so much for joining me in this. I really enjoy sharing these issues with you. I hope you enjoy watching the lectures. Thank you again, and please be safe. Take care of yourself and your families. Wish you a very good new year, and hope you all the best. Please be safe, and wish you also all the best in preparing for your final exam. Thank you so much.